Welcome back everyone. This is our learning to read beach structures using Jasper Beach as our case study. This is a redo of our previous old video, but I wanted to update it in our new format. So we were looking at gutters and troughs. I use those terms interchangeably, what they look like and benefits for fishing. So fish-like structure, and they all gravitate towards it. So that's why we look for them and we target them. And we look for entry and exit points to structures and what they look like and the benefits. The benefits are, like the guy on the screen, hopefully we will get tight lines like this fella and we will reel in some fish. That's the whole purpose of identifying structures. So we also look at holes, how to identify the benefits and the differences between those and gutters, with all the stuff about catching fish. So this, I mean by same but different, is that some beaches may look the same, but they can be different. Every beach is different, but they can be the same in relation to certain things, which are the main concepts remain the same. It's just how we apply them across the board. So what we've got to do is we've got to be able to look at a beach and try and assess the structure and what that means. Now, I would encourage you at this point, first of all, to thank our new Patreon supporter who just jumped on board. And if you like our videos and want to continue supporting us, not only in the videos, but in our trips away and helping us to make that possible, visit the link in our description to our Patreon page, as there's a lot of benefits to you in joining Patreon. So have a look at that and consider subscribing. We'll also have some product reviews coming soon, and I'll put a link in the description to our last event trip down to Chen's, where we looked at Chen's, where we went to look for beach. When we went salmon fishing. And I wanted to point this out. A lot of everybody who watches our videos, watches all this, are not subscribed to our channel, and it's very important to help us grow and continue our good work to subscribe. Not to mention that when we hit 1,000, there's going to be some huge prize giveaways. Yes, gotta say, like, I love that bit. Take my baby fish, I'll be able to bait fish to take my bait. So not all beaches have structure. Not all beaches are the same, not created equal. Some have a little bit, not much, some tiny bit, so forth and so on. And I did, before I go any further, with this, some, they can look all the same until you learn to identify stuff. You got to look really closely to really understand it. So let's have a look at Jasper Beach, because it presents a really great example, and I haven't met something quite like this. So the outer arrows here that you can indicate are pointing to breakers. So the waves, which is a white color, and then you can see what's circled in the big red square there is the darker colored patch of the sea here. And there is no wave action, meaning there's no breakers coming through that section, which means that's a deeper section, which causes no waves. And then these yellow ones cause what we term as the lip of the beach. So generally your predatory fish will swim in a gutter between the back breakers and the lip of the beach, and they target their bait fish. So here we have your outer breakers again in the inner section, and it's circled here in the red. Your deeper section, there's no wave action. So what's reflected on top is basically a reflection on what's going on with this leaf or under the bottom. So the arrow here points to a great section of the beach you want to target, a deep section of a gutter, and a gutter and trough runs a long ways along the beach. And then here's a diagram to give you an indication of what we're talking about. So you can see the sandbars push up the sea floor, push up on the sea, which creates waves. And then when there's that drop in depth, then there's no waves, because there's no depth to continue the action or the energy of the wave to continue forward. So that's how we can easily identify them in these prime examples like this. So you can see the outer wave action, lack of wave action in this red section area. Now the photos, even though they're taken on an angle, that's quite a large area. It just doesn't look large in the photo, but it is an extended area, and it's great that it is close to shore, because that's very rare. So over on the other side, the arrow there, you can see quite a few waves, and then the other one was pointing towards a deeper section. And we want to target them for this reason, so we end up, let this go, reeling in something, hopefully quite large because the predatory fish, they come in through the through the entries and exits. So this here is a good view from a satellite that gives us an idea of an entry and exit. An entry and exit is, you can see by the lack of wave action, meaning that there's a deep enough channel for predatory fish to come into. This other arrow here is to indicate, to show you there's a coloration difference between the upper sand limit, which is, the high tide limit, and the low tide. This red arrow indicates that, when the fish will come in, they'll come in through that entrance and they'll travel down through that section when it fills up during high tide and into that direction, and all the way down through all this area here, which when that area fills up during high tide will become a nice little gutter. So these ones are a little bit harder to tell. Both the top one and the bottom one, there's a slight change in wave action through those areas. So during high tide, they will actually probably fill up a little bit deeper than the sides either side, because you can see that either side, they're very shallow. So they will feed into nice entries and exit. The one below is a great one where you can actually see it starting to feed into a gutter. Even at low tide, you can see there's a tiny slack of wave action, and then in the middle, there's none at all. Here is another example of an entry and exit point. So either side, you're seeing wave action, but right in the middle there's not really anything at all. So that's where your fish are going to come in and out of. And you want to target right in front of that red line in that deeper water, which is noted by its lack of wave action and its deeper colour water in front of the lip. And these are ideal conditions because they are so close to the shoreline that you don't have to cast very far to hit into those deep sections, which is what we want. We want to be able to target that. So this is a hole, and the reason why it's a hole is because you've got one outer layer that's all wave action, and you can see it extends for quite some time, so that's all shallow. And then you have this really deep section all of a sudden out in the middle of just a single spot, and it's quite deep in that one specific area. And a hole is generally just one specific area, as noted by this yellow arrow. You would target that deep hole, unlike a gutter which may run an extended period lengthways across a beach. A hole might just be a section that is just filled with just a tiny bit, a certain section. So we want that because we want to increase the chance of our tight lungs and our rods. That's what we're looking for. So this is that same hole, but from a different angle. I've moved further, and you can see there just a bit back this way. So you can see the wave action still causing a lack of, so the sandbar's further out, and then there's a drop off in the sandbar. And then you would target the section right there in the middle. So this would probably get fed, it got fed a little bit further along, tinily. There was a tiny little inlet outlet that was feeding this hole. So it's not like a deep trough, it was just a certain little tiny little hole. So this one here, red arrow is indicating that's a good place for an entry and exit point. The top one up the bottom is just indicating that's where the high tide line is, so keep that in mind. This outer red line, the inner red line. So outer red line is where you'd chuck over the top of the breakers, maybe hit that deeper section out the back if you're in during low tide. The one on the other one was during high tide, that would be where it fills up. This one here, the red circle would be indicative of low tide. You might be going to target that section because it looks like a nice deep hole during low tide where the fish can't get into the lower section. Same with the orange arrows pointing to a deeper section behind one or two breakers you might be able to reach into. And then this final arrow is indicating of where the tide will fit later. So different is great, which means we want a variety in our beaches, because fish are encouraged to those different features in the beach. Can't just, if it's just ordinary across, we're not going to get exactly what we want to see. So here we can see there's a deeper section more to the right, which was circled, and then there's the arrow which indicates probably the limit, or where you can see how it's sort of thinning out. This one, due to the angle of the picture, it's very hard to tell that the length of this gutter, but it is actually quite long. It's just the way in which this photo was taken. So obviously indicating white the breakers, red indicating where there is a deeper trough. And this, strangely enough, right out there on that section there where the arrow is pointing, the beach circled like that, and there was a deep section just feeding there like that. Yeah, fishy feed. Anyway, so looking at the Google Maps for this one, we're looking at this. This looks like a bit of an inlet coming in to feed the gutter that sort of bends around like a U shape in there. So it follows a bit of that red line, so it can feed up towards the top where you see a little snake, and then down the bottom where the arrow is now indicating, when the high tide comes in, that section of the beach will get filled up, and you can tell that by the coloration of the sand. Here we can see a clear entry and exit point from the site based on the lack of wave action, and it would fill up going down towards that section in between the two breakers, and that would fill that up quite nicely. It might even fill up to the left as well, so it gives you a good picture from the top to what to look for as well as on the ground. Here, this is a perfect example of a great entry and exit point, a little wider than the previous one and very well distinctively identifiable by the fact there's wave actions to the left but nothing there in the middle, and then a really deep section in front of it, and then slightly across to the left as well. It extends all the way, but you can see where the arrow is pointing, that would probably be where I would target my extent to, through and up to that exit. Yeah, these right. So we want to target those structures, and yeah, prize. Don't forget, hit 1,000, we get prize stuff. So structure, it means we increase our chance of finding fish, increases our chances of fish being in an area because they like structure, and the predatory fish come into these gutters and troughs to find the bait fish, and so that's why we want to look for them and target them. And yeah, we'll see. You'll take the advice, find these structures, and trust me, after a while of looking for them and seeing them, you will be able to identify them yourself. Now, you're not always going to get a perfect example like Jasper, where you've got all the structures all across this whole beachfront. You may only have a little bit, one breaker, and then there's nothing. There's only one breaker, then there's a little bit of a break, and then there's the end. That's better than nothing. It's better than a long beach of nothingness. So finding any structure is better than no structure whatsoever. So I encourage you to look along the beaches and find something, and then target around that. That's going to give you the best chance. Don't forget, yeah, but prize when we hit 1,000. Thanks to our Patreon supporters that help make all these videos possible and continue to contribute to our content. And if you like our videos, please like and subscribe. It does help our channel grow and continue to produce the content. So thank you for listening, and I'll catch you on our next video.